Welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition. We have possibly our last two-game NBA slate of the year. I don't know how it works out. Maybe we'd get another one, but we have two game sixes here tonight. 3-1 series leads for the
game 5.
Okay, it is game 5. My bad. But 3-1 series leads in both the series, so they could both end tonight. We have the Warriors down 3-1, and the other game is the Celtics down 3-1. So it will be interesting. But hey, two-game slate, so there's still money to be made here. If we do things just right, we can at least cash, and we can certainly try to get a takedown. The goal here is to do that every single time. Certainly had some good plays yesterday. I was very into going over on Halliburton, over on Evan Mobley, and over on Spida. If you followed me into the abyss with those three going over, you were in really good shape. You just also needed Jokic, who got 77 fantasy points. And, of course, along the way, you definitely had to, dodge some landmines because that's just the way it goes. Two-game slate, you kind of need to be perfect if you want to get a takedown. But if you follow what we say here, I think you'll have a really good chance of cashing. If anything we do that does help you out, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and also consider hitting up our Patreon. Just $5.99 a month for all of our picks, all of our advice, and, of course, our Discord access as well. All right, let's get into it. The way we do this, we go position by position, highlighting the top plays that we like, and also locking them in and just letting you get an idea of what the what the best lineup in our view is for the slate in general. So up top, Ant comes in with a 9.4K price tag, 50 fantasy points, leads the way at the point guard position. In theory, Jaylen Brunson is probably a better value here, but Ant just has a better ceiling consistently. So I do understand the Ant hype here, but Jaylen Brunson in an elimination game and coming off of a monster game, we had 66 fantasy points, and he's like half the ownership. Kind of prefer Brunson here. Where are you at between these two guys?
I prefer Edwards. I think he's just, clearly underpriced at 9.4. Point guard, shooting guard's useful. Minnesota, pretty heavy favorites in this game. Boston, even without Tatum, it's still a tougher matchup on paper for Brunson, I think. And as usual, the other Knicks look pretty good. So I'm not getting a ton of Brunson right now, which is kind of the story of every slate. I think he's a fine play in a vacuum. But if I'm playing a single entry, I'm probably just going to play Edwards over him.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think just the ownership and price differences are going to get me leaning towards Brunson a little bit more. I will still have plenty of Ant. Probably not expensive enough considering the series and just in general playoffs he's had. So don't have a major issue there.
Next playing both is viable too.
Yeah, of course. I don't think you have to take a stand there. I just would go Brunson personally if I am going to do that. Derek White does kind of make that conversation a little bit less necessary, though. He is only 7.7K. There is no Jason Tatum. He projects really well, 41 fantasy points. I don't really tend to be in love with Derek White as an expensive guy. Obviously, his usage is going to go up a little bit. The projection is good. He doesn't cost a ton, but 7.7. Even with the enhanced role feels steep. There's somebody else on Boston that I would rather get to if I'm going to go up that high.
Yeah, I still think he's a strong play just because, without Tatum, he does get the second biggest usage boost of any Celtic.
Yeah.
He is priced at a premium. 7.7 is kind of the ceiling-ish of Derek White. So you still need him to have an actively good game. He's not just going to float into a tournament-winning score at 7.7. So,
yep.
Interested to see where the ownership goes. He's not that far off of Brunson's salary. Still like him a lot. He's in quite a few of my lineups early in the day. I don't expect that to change. As of now, Edwards is the point guard I have the most of. I do have more White than Brunson just for the $1,200 discount. But not a core play for me, I would say, on this slate.
No, not at 7.7. I think also the ownership, if we can believe that to be 45%, that feels like a lot. I think because of his price and the ownership, I would not mind just in general going under on him and going over on Ant and Brunson in particular, obviously, and then also going over on the other Celtics guards. Obviously, Drew Holiday is not a fun guy to play, but I really like Drew today, despite the not so great projection. really good, big minutes. He's going to be initiating the offense more than usual. Tatum not there, soaking up usage. Like, just a 30% usage rate just gone from this offense. Is Derek White naturally going to take all of that? No. Like, Drew, even Peyton Pritchard, of course, Jaylen Brown. Like, these guys, maybe Porzingis. Who knows what to do with Porzingis? But the point is, it's going to be dispersed and stretched out, across everybody in this offense. I think just based off of minutes and the potential, I think Drew Holiday looks like an awesome play. And what was his price? 5.4K. I think you can argue for Peyton Pritchard with no Tatum, but I prefer the stability of Drew's minutes. Like, he's going to be out there to run the offense and to play defense. So he looks awesome to me.
Yeah, he's the kind of chalk play that I wouldn't mind ever being under on, just because it's Drew Holiday. He hasn't had a huge role offensively with Boston, but of course he is playing with Tatum for most of the minutes. So he does get, let's see, a slight.
He also isn't chalky, though. At least not from what I'm seeing.
I mean, he's going to be owned. It's a 2-year slate. It's just, I think he's a good play, especially because you can play him at shooting guard. Like, if he was point guard only like White, I would not be as into it. But because you can play him at shooting guard, I think he does gain some appeal. So I do think he's a strong play, one of the better values on the slate. Like, if I'm playing a mid-range guard, I would much rather play Holiday than Podziemski tonight. Mm-hmm. So just kind of the way it lines up. I do think he's a good play, but I don't think he's a must play.
I think because the way things are changing here for Boston, we'll just fork in the road. We'll just disagree there. I think he definitely better play than Pod. I think Pod's an okay play. I don't mind him, but Drew is cheaper. They have about similar ownership. The other thing is, like,
I said, I would rather play Holiday than Podziemski.
No. I know. I'm just kind of like thinking out loud here. Like Derek White is going to be owned. Jaylen Brown is going to be owned. Pritchard's going to take a little ownership. Pod's going to take a little ownership. Healed, maybe Porzingis. Like, other guys in that price range, specifically Healed and Porzingis, are going to take ownership away from Drew Holiday. So, like, define owned. Like, on a 2-game slate, if he's 20 to 30% owned, like, I'm not scared of that. I'd be scared if he's 70% owned. Yeah, then I'm with you. I'd be out on Drew. But right now, I like him a lot. If you want to get to Pritchard, that's okay. He's a little bit more owned than Drew right now. Even more reason for me to lean Drew's way. If you don't want anything to do with those guys and you are playing Derek and or Jaylen, you can also get value via the Timberwolves. There's Dante DiVincenzo, 4.3K. He looks okay. And then Mike Conley at 3.8. If you need the savings, I'm fine with Conley. But it looks like right now Conley is going to be almost double the ownership to Dante. So I'm just naturally going to, lean Dante a little bit.
That's what it looked like before the last game, and then Conley still came in pretty low owned and was the better play in the end. So I'll take the projected ownership with a grain of salt. I just think with DiVincenzo playing so horribly, it's kind of hard to have a ton of faith. Like, they are both super cheap, so that's helpful. But DiVincenzo's shooting has been trashed. The minutes have been scaled back a little bit as a result of that. Conley's not really likely to see 30 plus either, but he is under 4K. There's not a lot of sub 4K value like on this slate. Point guard's rife with pretty good mid-range cheap value. So Holiday's my favorite. I'm not really on Pritchard. I do think Conley and DiVincenzo are fine, with a slight lean to Conley for me.
Yeah, I will note, like, DiVincenzo got back to 25 minutes off the bench last game. He was okay for the price, 19 fantasy points. That wasn't going to hurt you. And the game before that, he had 4 fouls and wasn't hitting any of his shots. So I think that combination really hurt him, and then he was terrible. So totally agree. Like, he's not really getting there on his own. But I think if we can trust the 25 minutes are there at 4.3K at way lower ownership than Conley, that's my play. I'm just going to do that. We just know, like, the way the playoff series go, it's an ebb and flow situation. If a guy struggles for 3 games, that 4th game might be the game where it hits. Like, we were talking about this with MPJ. Didn't he hit? Like, we were going into it like a couple slates ago. We're like, oh, now might be a good time to get on MPJ. And then sure enough, he had like 30 fantasy points at like 4.6K or something like that. So it's not always going to work out. I also said the same thing about Peyton Pritchard. He was bad for like 3 games. I was like, hey, I'm in on Peyton Pritchard. And then he had a big game. So I think those are just risks you have to take, and especially when the ownership is kind of backing you in support, so to speak. So that's just where I'm at point guard. Moving on to shooting guard, Edwards looks good there, but Jaylen Brown is just the better play. Better point per dollar play, only 8.2K with no Tatum. We know he gets a massive usage jump, 48 fantasy point projection. I think I think on this slate, you don't have to pick between Jaylen Brown and Derek White, but given the value and how much I like Drew, I am going to do that. Like, I think I'm just going to, in a lot of my lineups, going to pick Jaylen over Derek White, or Jaylen and, Drew or Pritchard over Derek White and Jaylen, that kind of combo. So that's where I'm at. But why don't you give your thoughts on Jaylen and where you're at with his ownership at 66% currently?
Yeah, he's kind of the closest thing on the slate that feels to a free square. Like, it's not a can't miss spot. We've seen him, underwhelm in Tatumless spots kind of all season. And he, again, 80, what is he, 82 you said? That's not a discount. That's kind of where Jaylen Brown normally is. Or at least they did a good job of making sure that he's not 7K and just someone you automatically have to play.
Right.
But I am still getting to him in the vast majority of lineups. Like, it's kind of hard to pass up. This game has the tighter spread. The usage is the biggest usage boost on the team without Tatum. So I'm getting there. I do think maybe a max 2 of those 3, Brown, White, and Holiday makes sense. Don't really have a strong lean for the 2 that I would prefer in a single lineup, probably White and Brown. But I do, like I said before, I think Holiday is a really strong play too. So you kind of have to be smart about the exposure you get with this team, because there is more value. Horford and Porzingis we'll talk about. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to avoid. So Jaylen Brown's just someone I'm going to kind of build around this slate.
Yeah, the other thing, though, Jaylen's price is appropriate for who he is usually, like with Tatum there. With Tatum not there, he's definitely way too cheap. Like, certainly he can fail, like you've said. Like, he definitely has come up short in this same situation, but I'm just going in with it. I think their season on the line, at home, no Tatum. I cannot really envision Jaylen laying an egg here, so I'm just going to fully buy into him. Like, I'm going to be very, very exposed to him. There are other plays here. Mikal Bridges gets monster minutes. He does have somewhat of a ceiling if he can hit his shots. I think he's okay at 6.2. Definitely prefer Buddy Hield at 5.1 or Podziemski at 5.7. The play there for me, though, is going to be Buddy at 5.1K. I think he's just monster minutes, a major usage uptick with no Curry. He just feels like the value play at this position. Of course, there's other guys we already discussed, Pritchard, DiVincenzo. They're fine. Drew having shooting guard eligibility is really nice. And if you want to punt with Gary Payton, that's fine. You can do that. I just think if you aren't, like, there's no Jokic on this slate, and obviously no Tatum anymore either. So, like, I just don't feel compelled to stretch myself that thin. So Gary Payton is in play. I'd keep him in my player pool if I'm doing like 20 or 150 lineups or something. But if I'm doing a single entry, I don't think I want anything to do with that due to the really low floor.
Yeah, mostly at this position, it's mostly Brown and then Edwards and Holiday. And then, a dusting of DiVincenzo, a little bit of Payton as a punt. Not getting to Podziemski, not getting to Bridges, not really getting to Pritchard either. I just think there are stronger plays. I think being under on the Bridges and Anunoby group is pretty interesting on this slate because there is so much value elsewhere. And, the minutes are going to be there for those guys. I just think given their usage and the roles they have, it's pretty unlikely both are going to hit in the same game. So I'm kind of under on both Bridges and OG so far tonight.
Yeah, I just feel like the Golden State and Boston value is a little bit more compelling. I think you can certainly make a case anytime to play a next guy who's going to play like 40 minutes. Like, if you want to play OG and Mikal Bridges, that's cool. I don't have a problem with it. I just don't think they're priorities for me. I'd rather play Pritchard, Hield, Podziemski, and Drew. That's really where I'm at. So we agree there. Over at small forward, we have we have Jaylen Brown lead the way. We already talked about him. Josh Hart, 6'9", still feels a little bit too cheap. Not the best matchup in the world. He's going to carry a little bit of ownership. I think really just like it was the other day, I prefer him over the other two Knicks guys. I prefer his triple-double upside and general floor over Bridges and OG and Anunoby. I think those guys are fine, but if I had to play one of those Knicks, it's going to be Hart. Jaden McDaniels just is a decent play at 5'9". I prefer Buddy Hield over him, though. And I don't really want any of the punts here. So mostly it's Jaylen or Hield for me at small forward.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to add. It's kind of the same position, a lot of the same stuff as we talked about at shooting guard. And then the positions are just kind of a lot weaker, the forward spots that they are guard. So kind of moving Brown to small forward mostly. And then it's like Edwards, Holiday, shooting guard instead. So it's really just Brown and then Buddy and then kind of move right along.
Yep, agreed. All right, a power forward, Jimmy Butler.
I do think, Hart is probably my favorite of those Knicks 3 wings.
Yep.
900, pretty high ceiling, triple-double upside, even though his usage is kind of low. I have a lot more faith in him doing stuff while he's out there than Anunoby, so I'm getting to Hart more than him.
Yeah, I mean, like, if those guys aren't scoring 20 real points, they're probably not hitting, whereas Josh Hart has low usage. We just know that's kind of baked in already. He might not do that, but he can get there with steals, blocks, rebounds, and assists. Jimmy Butler looks awesome. Don't really need a big sales pitch. 8.7K with no Curry. Technically too cheap. He only took 9 shots in the last game. Don't know what that was all about, but the season's on the line. I would imagine he'll be aggressive. He projects really well. Don't really care about the ownership. Love Jimmy here. I also really like Julius Randle, though. He's coming in at maybe about half the ownership, possibly. We'll see how it works out. He had a triple-double in his last game, near triple-double the game before that. He's been really good the entire series, and he's way cheaper than Jimmy, and he's cheaper than Jaylen. So he's like the same price as Derek White. Like, to me, like, I want to go get Julius Randle instead of Derek White. If he's going to be half the ownership of Derek White and, like, the price is the same, I'm going Julius Randle all day. So he looks really good. And then a lot of these guys we already talked about. The real thing I want to get your opinion on is going to be the Porzingis Al Horford situation. But first, as you get to there, just touch on Jimmy or Julius too.
Yeah, I'm getting more Jimmy. Get a good amount of both right now. Like, they're both obviously very strong plays. I don't think either of them is a major discount. Butler without Curry hasn't really taken on a massive usage role, even though he has gotten a slight boost in that situation. So fine. I think Draymond is another really good play at the position of 5'3", just super cheap. They're kind of obviously against the wall in the series, but his minutes should be there as long as they can keep the game competitive, and he's just underpriced for who he is. So I'm getting to Draymond a bit more than I am Porzingis/Horford in that range. Porzingis did play 24 minutes in the last game, which was the most he's played in the series, but still didn't really do anything while he was out there. He's clearly not right as he battles this illness. He's going to be extremely chalky. I understand it. Like, he's 5K, they're shorthanded. He's going to get a usage boost in the minutes he does play, but it's hard to have a lot of faith in it. I think he's a strong play, but that's something I wouldn't mind fading into significant ownership.
Yeah, this feels like normally this would be like a don't get too cute spot. Like, why are you fading Porzingis? He's 5K. There's no Tatum. So, like, if he crushes and you don't play him, you're going to feel really stupid. But everything that's happened leading up to this tells me not to play him. He's like not healthy. He's not playing well. He's not even getting full allotment of minutes. So I think everybody else just needs to make that decision. I think if he's going to be owned, that the decision's made for me. I'm going to go do something different. Like Porzingis at 5K could certainly bury me. There's no doubt about it. But you have Horford at 600 more. You have Draymond at 300. Kuminga at 500 more. You got those Celtics guards who are kind of like priced similarly. Buddy Hield at 5-1. So, like, while the position isn't the same, you can allocate those funds elsewhere instead of a potentially chalky Porzingis. That said, in a vacuum, no Tatum, 5K Porzingis, like starting or not starting, is a good play. So I'm not going to be playing a ton of him. I'm definitely going to be underweight and doing different things. 74% owned. Like, how many slates have we talked about a guy like this, whether it be Bobby Portis or Alex Caruso? Usually it doesn't work out, right? Like, eating the 70% owned dude. So everybody's got to make that call. My decision personally is to go very underweight on Porzingis. What are your thoughts on Kuminga? Like, we were pretty on him when he hit, and we kind of got away from him when he wasn't like amazing the last slate. So now we kind of have to make that call again. Like, do we go into Kuminga? We know the usage is there. We know he's going to get minutes. I mean, I'm okay with it now that the usage has been, or the ownership is kind of diluted beyond Porzingis at this position. So, like, you can go get Dre, you can go get Kuminga at like kind of the same price as Porzingis, and just hope that he matches Porzingis or does a little bit better, and then you're winning.
Yeah, his ceiling is so high with his role as a scorer. That's what he's out there to do, that it's kind of hard to, not want to do that. So at this point, I'm kind of into it pretty over the field on that, just because it's cheap. The role is going to be there. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's check out. Well, let's first touch on also. Do you have any interest in Naz Reid 4.9? Kind of another direct pivot away from Porzingis, and in a very real way, kind of the same play. Like, unless Porzingis starts and plays 35 minutes, like it's the same situation.
Yeah, that's okay. Not my favorite thing. I think Kuminga is just a better play in the same range, but that's a fine pivot if you want to make it.
All right, let's wrap it up at center here. Towns, we loved him the other day. He only got 39 fantasy points. Wasn't the worst call in the world. Like, he was okay. But here he is again, still super cheap at 8K. Still not the best matchup in the world, but he's not going to be very owned, and he does have a ceiling. I'm not like locking him in like I did the other day when he was 7-6. I do still like him. I think going over on the 28% ownership is totally a fine way to go. I think at this point, though, like, kind of like Julius Randle a little bit more. Like, he's just had a really good series and he's playing, really with a lot of confidence. But if you want to pivot to Towns and the ownership kind of gets out of control, that's fine. But in general, like, Porzingis at 5K is carrying over 70% ownership. So these guys being more expensive are going to go a little bit overlooked. What are your thoughts there?
Getting a lot more Julius Towns. Just, they're similarly priced. I think Cat could be a little bit more popular. We'll see how it winds up. Like, they're looking similar as of now, but just kind of have more faith in Randall in the matchup. Like, it's been good for him. The role's been very good. Towns has been okay. He is cheap for who he is. Like, he was 10K all season. Now he's 8K, but I think he's kind of a secondary play on this slate. Like, New York as a whole just kind of looks mid to me. Like, I'm not getting a ton of any of the starters for the Knicks. Just kind of focus on Boston and Minnesota primarily. So I think it's okay. And then Draymond, I mentioned loving. You can play him at center. 5,300 is just way too cheap for him.
Yeah, no disagreement from me. All right, that does it for our position by position breakdown. Why don't we just wrap it up with our general strategy and flag plant of the night?
Probably more balanced approach. I guess Edwards would be the top overall option. It's pretty easy to get him with Brown if you want, which may not be a balanced approach since there's a 10-player on the slate. But that's kind of where I'm going. And then not fading Porzingis, being under the field, being well under on Bridges, Gobert, Podziemski, guys like that. And then cramming in Brown. A lot of Kuminga for me as well.
Yeah, kind of the same. I think the main thing is going to be I don't really want to play Porzingis into ownership like that. I think the other thing is I'm going to be very, very over on Drew as opposed to Derek White. So I think going away from two of the higher owned Celtics guys does make sense. I think I will say again, they are good plays and I wouldn't fade them outright. Like, if I'm doing one single entry, I might fade one of them completely. Maybe both if I want to be extra risky. But across like a lot of lineups, just go under on those guys and maybe play with, how many you actually expose yourself to. And then I kind of want to go a little bit over on Cat and Julius too. I prefer Julius between those two. I just think we have a couple spots here where we can really take advantage of where the chalk is going. Like, if everybody's going to play, Porzingis and Derek White, then they're probably going to go up and get Ant. So there's going to be some guys that are going to get overlooked. Brunson too. Not really as into Brunson. I think I'd rather just eat the chalk with Jimmy, and I am going to eat the chalk with Jaylen as well. All right, that does it for us. Hopefully this helps you out. If it does, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider joining our Patreon. Just $5.99 for the entire month. You get access to our NBA picks, our NBA core plays going into each slate, our MLB DFS picks and stacks, and all the other stuff that we have to offer, plus our Discord. All right, thanks for watching, and good luck.